The Ithorian's head exploded in a pink mist as Gruss's plasma bolt took him between his bulbous eyes. The galactic assassin rose from his crouch, sweeping the room with his pulse rifle, the cloaking field around him shimmering. The rest of the strike team lay crumpled at his feet, their exoskeletons punctured and oozing. Gruss had been in this business for centuries, his name whispered in fear across 1,000 worlds. The elite gun-for-hire who never failed a job. But this contract from the mysterious client was different. Eliminating a human should have been an easy payday. Their frail, furless bodies were so pathetically vulnerable. But this target, this Donald Bennett, was insanely hard to pin down. The human diplomat was always on the move, never without a legion of guards and a labyrinth of security. Even for Gruss, he was a hard man to kill. It wasn't just Bennett's protection detail that made him a challenging mark, though. It was his blasted idealism, his incessant push for peace and unity between the Ithorian Protectorate and the upstart Terran Republic. Bennett's coalition building threatened the lucrative weapons contracts and juicy war profits of Gruss's Ithorian clients. So here Gruss was, standing over a pile of Saurian corpses, ready to vaporize Bennett's head and collect his 1,000,000 credit bounty. He sighted the human through his rifle's scope and hesitated. Cursing, Gruss lowered his weapon. The old killer told himself he was just being prudent, that this job needed a soft touch, but deep down, a tiny voice asked, "Is the man fighting for peace really the one who deserves to die?" Slipping into the shadows, Gruss set off to infiltrate Bennett's quarters and resolve this contract, one way or another. Even he didn't know which way this would end. But the fates of Terra, Ithoria, and the whole damn galaxy would all hinge on the choice Gruss made when he confronted Bennett. For once, the master assassin felt uncertain, and that terrified him even more than the thought of failing his mission. Gruss slipped through the shadows of Bennett's quarters, his cloaking field shimmering around him. The human diplomat sat hunched over a desk, poring over a scattered mess of documents. He looked exhausted, vulnerable, easy prey. The assassin raised his pulse rifle, sighting the kill shot. His finger tightened on the trigger. One twitch, and he'd be 1,000,000 credits richer, but something stayed his hand. Bennett looked up, his eyes locking with Gruss's through the rifle's scope. In that moment, the old killer saw something he'd never encountered in a target before. Not fear, not pleading, but understanding. "I know who you are," Bennett said softly, "and I know why you're here. But before you pull that trigger, hear me out." Gruss hesitated. A voice in his head screamed at him to take the shot, complete the mission. But another part of him, a part he thought long dead, yearned to listen. "You have a choice," Bennett continued. "A chance to be more than a gun for hire, to fight for something greater than yourself. I'm offering you a new life, a shot at redemption. Will you take it?" Gruss's mind raced, centuries of blood and death flashing before his eyes. In that crystalline moment, he made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. An explosion rocked the room, showering them in sparks and debris. Ithorian commandos poured through the shattered doorway, plasma rifles blazing. Gruss reacted on instinct, his own weapon spitting fire as he dove for cover. "Come on!" he roared at Bennett, spraying the attackers with pulse bolts. "We're getting out of here!" The humans scrambled after him, ducking and weaving as they fought their way through the twisting corridors of the space station. Alarms blared and panicked, beings fled in all directions. Gruss moved with lethal precision, his training and enhanced reflexes, making short work of the Ithorian soldiers. They burst into a hangar bay, plasma bolts sizzling past their heads. A small, unmarked shuttle squatted in the corner, their only hope of escape. Gruss covered their retreat, his cloaking field flickering as he downed one commando after another. Bennett reached the shuttle, wrenching open the hatch. "Gruss, come on!" The assassin sprinted for the ramp, enemy fire pinging off his armor. They launched just as a plasma grenade detonated behind them, the shockwave slamming Gruss into a bulkhead. Stars exploded across his vision. Bennett hauled him to his feet as the shuttle hurtled away from Meridian Prime. "You all right?" Gruss shook his head to clear it. "I'll live. Now what's this new life you promised me?" The human smiled grimly. "A chance to fight for something that matters, to stop a war that's bleeding both our species dry. I've been working with Ithorian rebels who want peace. They could use a man of your skills. Gruss eyed him suspiciously. And why should I trust you? Because I'm trusting you, Bennett replied, holding his gaze. We're in this together now, whether we like it or not. Trillions of lives hang in the balance. The only question is, are you ready to be more than a killer? Gruss stared out the view screen at the stars streaking past, a lifetime of choices weighing on his soul. He'd spilled an ocean of blood in the name of credits. Maybe it was time to forge a different path. All right, Bennett, he growled. You've got yourself a rebel. Now let's go win a damn war. The prototype stealth ship sliced through the inky void of space, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Naxos's formidable defense grid. Gruss gripped the controls, his eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching planet. We're coming in hot, he growled to Bennett, who was strapped into the co-pilot seat. Those fancy shields of yours better hold. Bennett nodded, his face grim. They'll hold, just get us planetside. The ship shuddered as it hit the atmosphere, but true to Bennett's word, the prototype's stealth field never wavered. Gruss guided them down to a remote, heavily forested region near their target, the archive complex. As they touched down in a small clearing, Gruss's heightened senses tingled. Something wasn't right. He held up a hand, signaling Bennett to wait as he scanned the tree line. We've got company, he hissed. Ithorian commandos, at least a dozen, maybe more. Bennett's eyes widened. How? Our arrival was completely masked. Someone knew we were coming, Gruss snarled, drawing his pulse rifle. This whole damn mission's been compromised from the start. No sooner had the words left his mouth than plasma bolts began sizzling through the air. Gruss ducked, returning fire as Bennett scrambled for cover behind a fallen log. So much for the element of surprise, Bennett shouted, fumbling with his own weapon. Gruss moved with lethal precision, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge incoming fire while picking off targets with surgical accuracy. But the Ithorians kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. We can't stay here, Gruss roared, laying down suppressing fire. Move! They broke from cover, sprinting through the dense undergrowth. Plasma bolts scorched the foliage around them as they ran, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. There! Bennett pointed to a rocky outcropping. Looks like a cave system. They dove into the narrow opening, just as a volley of fire strafed their position. Gruss turned, ready to make a last stand, when a voice rang out from the darkness behind them. Hold your fire, they're with us! A figure emerged from the shadows, a young Ithorian female, her stance wary but her weapon pointed away from them. She gestured deeper into the cave. Quickly before they find us, I'm Zara Cole. Welcome to the rebellion. Gruss and Bennett exchanged a look of surprise before following her into the hidden outpost. As they moved through the cramped tunnels, Zara explained the situation. My father, Cole Darren, suspected a traitor in our ranks. He sent me here as a contingency. She led them into a makeshift command center. I have the intel you need on the archive's defenses. As Zara pulled up holographic schematics of the complex, Bennett turned to Gruss. We need to talk about your past. Gruss bristled. Now's not the time for... It is, Bennett insisted. If we're going to pull this off, I need to know who I'm really working with. For a moment, Gruss was silent. Then, with a heavy sigh, he began to speak. He told of his brutal training, the loss of his family, the centuries of blood on his hands. Bennett listened without judgment, his eyes full of understanding. As Gruss finished, Zara spoke up, her voice thick with disgust. You're everything that's wrong with our people. The corruption, the violence. Enough, Bennett cut her off. We're all victims of the same cycle, but we can break it together. Gruss met Zara's eyes, seeing his own pain reflected there. Slowly, grudgingly, they nodded in agreement. Right, Bennett said, turning back to the schematics. Now, how do we get inside? Zara's mandibles twitched in what passed for an Ithorian smile. I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. Hours later, Gruss stood before a biometric scanner at the archive's final security checkpoint. He was barely recognizable in his disguise as a high-ranking Ithorian military official. Bennett and Zara, similarly disguised, waited behind him. As Gruss placed his hand on the scanner, he silently prayed their forged credentials would hold. For a moment, all was still. Then the alarm blared. The alarm's wail cut through the tense silence. Gruss's hand flew to his weapon, but Zara was faster. She slammed her fist onto a hidden panel, and the floor beneath them dropped away. They plummeted through darkness, the rush of air drowning out the shouts above. With a bone-jarring thud, they landed in a dimly lit tunnel. "Move!" Zara hissed, already sprinting down the passageway. Gruss and Bennett followed, their footsteps echoing off the narrow walls. Plasma bolts sizzled overhead as guards poured into the tunnel behind them. "Left!" Zara called, skidding around a corner. They emerged into a cavernous hangar bay, where a sleek prototype ship sat waiting. "Our ticket out!" Bennett gasped, racing up the boarding ramp. Gruss laid down covering fire as Zara sealed the hatch. The ship's engines roared to life, lifting them off the deck as plasma rounds pinged harmlessly off its hull. "Hang on!" Zara shouted from the pilot's seat. The prototype shot forward, bursting through the bay doors and into open space. For a moment it seemed they might escape cleanly. Then alarms blared throughout the cockpit. "Incoming vessels," Bennett announced, scanning the readouts. "A lot of them." Gruss peered out the viewport. A massive fleet of Ithorian warships materialized from hyperspace, weapons already charging. "I count at least 30 capital ships," he growled. "Who's leading this armada?" Zara's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Admiral Regan Haxor, the most ruthless officer in the Ithorian Navy, and completely in the pocket of our corrupt leadership." A crackling transmission filled the cabin. A deep, guttural voice spoke. "This is Admiral Haxor. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." "Like hell," Gruss snarled, strapping himself into the gunner's chair. "Zara, get us out of here." The young Ithorian's hands flew across the controls. The prototype lurched forward, its stealth systems engaged. But Haxor's fleet opened fire, filling space with a barrage of plasma bolts and missiles. Zara rolled and dove, pushing the ship to its limits. Gruss returned fire when he could, his shots finding their marks with deadly precision. But they were vastly outgunned and outnumbered. A lucky hit rocked the ship, alarms blaring. "We've lost shields," Bennett shouted. "One more direct hit and we're done for." Zara's eyes darted across the star chart. "There," she cried, "the Salathian asteroid field. It's our only chance." She banked hard, sending them hurtling towards a dense cluster of tumbling space rocks. Haxor's fleet gave chase, but the prototype's superior maneuverability allowed them to weave through the asteroids with relative ease. Massive explosions lit up the void behind them as pursuing ships smashed into the obstacles. But Haxor was relentless, ordering his fleet to bombard the entire field. A tremendous blast caught their wing, sending them into a wild spin. Zara fought the controls, narrowly avoiding a head-on collision with a giant asteroid. "We can't take much more of this," Bennett yelled over the din of failing systems. Gruss scanned the field ahead, his enhanced vision picking out a tiny gap between two colliding asteroids. "There," he barked. "Thread the needle, Zara! It's our only shot!" Zara gritted her teeth and gunned the engines. The ship screamed through the gap mere seconds before the asteroids smashed together, sealing off their escape route. They emerged on the other side, battered but alive. Haxor's fleet was nowhere in sight. "We made it," Bennett breathed, sagging in relief. But their respite was short-lived. The ship shuddered, emergency lights bathing the cockpit in an eerie red glow. "Bad news," Zara reported grimly. "That last hit did more damage than we thought. We're losing power fast." Gruss studied the navigational display. "There," he pointed. "Xanadu 4. It's our only option." "A barren desert moon," Bennett mused. "Not exactly hospitable, but it beats dying in space." Zara nodded, plotting a course. "Let's hope we can make planetfall before this bucket falls apart around us." The ship plummeted through Xanadu 4's thin atmosphere, trailing fire and debris. With a bone-jarring impact, they plowed into the shifting sands of an endless desert. As the dust settled, 3 figures emerged from the wreckage, gazing out at the desolate landscape stretching to the horizon. Gruss hefted his rifle, scanning for threats. We can't stay here. Haxor will send search parties soon enough. Zara nodded, retrieving a battered data pad from the ship. There are rumors of a hidden rebel outpost somewhere on this moon. It may be our only chance of getting off this rock. Bennett wiped sweat from his brow, squinting against the glare of twin suns. Then we'd better start walking. As they set off across the shifting dunes, none of them noticed the tiny drone that detached itself from the wreckage, buzzing silently after them. The tiny drone buzzed silently behind them, its presence unnoticed as Gruss, Zara, and Bennett trudged across the shifting sands of Xanadu IV. Hours passed, the twin suns beating down mercilessly as they searched for any sign of the rumored rebel outpost. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet shuddered. Bennett stumbled, nearly losing his footing. "What was that?" Before Gruss could answer, a massive tremor rocked the desert. The sand split open, revealing a yawning chasm. They scrambled for purchase, but it was too late. All three plummeted into darkness, tumbling through a hidden tunnel system. They landed hard on a metal grating, the impact knocking the wind from their lungs. Gruss recovered first, his enhanced physiology allowing him to shake off the fall. He scanned their surroundings, pulse rifle at the ready. They were in some kind of ancient facility, dust-covered consoles lining the walls. Zara stumbled to her feet, eyes wide. "This isn't a rebel base," she breathed. "It's something else." A distant rumble echoed through the corridors. The facility was powering up, awakening from millennia of slumber. Lights flickered to life, casting eerie shadows. "We need to move," Gruss growled. "Now!" They raced through winding passageways, the ground quaking beneath them. Ahead, a hangar bay materialized from the gloom. A sleek ship sat waiting, unlike any design they'd ever seen. "Our ticket out of here," Bennett said, already moving toward it. The ship's systems sprang to life as they approached. Zara slid into the pilot's seat, her hands flying over unfamiliar controls. "I think I can fly this, but—" An explosion rocked the hangar. Through the settling dust, they saw Haxor's troops pouring in, weapons trained on them. "Go!" Gruss roared, laying down covering fire. The ship lifted off, engines humming with otherworldly power. Plasma bolts sizzled past as they rocketed out of the hangar and into open space. "We've got company!" Bennett shouted, gesturing at the sensor readouts. Haxor's fleet materialized from hyperspace, weapons charging. Zara's mandibles clicked in frustration. "The nav system is scrambled. I don't know where—" The ship lurched, caught in some unseen force. Stars blurred around them as they were yanked into a blinding vortex of light and energy. When reality reasserted itself, they found themselves in an unfamiliar star system. Alarms blared as their battered vessel began to lose power. "Life support's failing," Bennett reported grimly. "We need to set down, fast." Zara scanned the system, desperation clear in her voice. "There, a gas giant. One of its moons might be habitable." As they approached, something impossible filled their viewport. An enormous structure hung in orbit around the gas giant, dwarfing anything they'd ever seen. "By the ancients," Zara whispered, "it can't be." Gruss leaned forward, his enhanced vision picking out impossible details. "What is it?" "Nexus Station," Zara breathed. "I thought it was just a myth." With no other options, they guided their failing ship towards the colossal construct. As they neared one of its impossibly vast docking rings, Gruss felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever awaited them inside would change everything. The moment their ship touched down, the magnitude of their discovery truly hit them. Nexus Station wasn't just big, it was a megastructure beyond comprehension, stretching as far as the eye could see in every direction. "We need to move," Gruss said, his tactical mind already assessing potential threats. "This place has been abandoned for who knows how long. Could be unstable." They made their way cautiously into the station's interior. Vast, cavernous spaces greeted them, filled with technology beyond their wildest imaginings. Most systems appeared dormant, coated in eons of dust, but here and there, faint lights flickered. "The central core," Zara muttered, consulting a holographic map that had sprung to life at their approach. "If anything's still functioning, it'll be there." As they ventured deeper into the station's guts, The air grew thick with tension. Gruss couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. Suddenly, a shimmering field of energy coalesced before them, taking on a vaguely humanoid shape composed of shifting geometric patterns. "Organic intruders detected," a voice resonated, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "State your purpose or be eliminated." Gruss raised his weapon, but Zara held up a hand. "We mean no harm," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "We seek refuge and a means to broadcast vital information to save billions of lives." The being, clearly some form of artificial intelligence, regarded them silently for a long moment. Then it spoke again. "I am Terrace, custodian of Nexus Station. Your arrival last was not anticipated, yet it may serve a greater purpose." Before they could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Terrace's form flickered, its attention clearly divided. "Hostile forces have entered the system," it intoned. "Your pursuers, I presume?" A holographic display sprang to life, showing Haxor's fleet emerging from hyperspace. "We're out of time," Gruss growled. "We need to transmit the data now, or everything we've fought for is lost." Terrace's form pulsed with energy. "Very well. Follow me to the quantum core. We shall see if your actions can finally break the cycle of violence that has plagued this galaxy for too long." As they raced deeper into the heart of Nexus Station, the distant sound of weapons fire echoed through the vast corridors. Haxor had arrived, and the final battle for the future of the cosmos had begun. The quantum core of Nexus Station pulsed with blinding energy as Gruss, Zara, and Terrace raced against time. Haxor's forces had breached the outer defenses, their weapons fire echoing through the vast corridors. "We're out of options," Gruss growled, his enhanced vision scanning the intricate machinery surrounding them. "How do we integrate our matrices?" Terrace's form flickered, geometric patterns shifting rapidly. "The process is dangerous, unpredictable. Your consciousness will be stripped from physical form, merged with the higher dimensional quantum reality." Zara's mandibles clicked nervously. "Will it hurt?" "Unknown," Terrace replied, "but it is our only chance to preserve the data and yourselves." A massive explosion rocked the station. Alarms blared as emergency bulkheads slammed shut. "Now or never," Gruss barked, stepping towards a pulsing energy field. Zara gripped his arm. "Together." They plunged into the swirling vortex of quantum energy. Pain unlike anything they'd experienced tore through them, reality itself seeming to unravel. Then, in an instant, it was over. Gruss opened eyes he no longer possessed, perceiving the world through an entirely new set of senses. He was everywhere and nowhere, a being of pure energy inhabiting a realm of infinite possibility. "Fascinating," Zara's voice resonated, her consciousness intertwined with his. "The laws of physics, they're more like suggestions here." Terrace manifested beside them, its form even more abstract in this new plane of existence. "Welcome to the quantum realm. Here, thought and reality are one." But their wonder was short-lived. A great disturbance rippled through the fabric of their new reality. Fragments of twisted metal and corrupted data coalesced, forming a monstrous entity that dwarfed comprehension. "Haxor!" Gruss snarled, recognizing the core of hatred at its center. The Admiral's consciousness had bonded with the wreckage of his flagship, transforming into a colossal, sentient dreadnought. It pulsed with malevolent energy, devouring the quantum essence around it. "The Omega Behemoth," Terrace intoned, "a cosmic cancer that will consume everything if left unchecked." Gruss felt power surge through his new form. "Then we stop it, here and now." Zara's energy pulsed in agreement. "But how? We barely understand what we've become." Terrace expanded, enveloping them in a protective field. "I will guide you, but we cannot face this threat alone." The custodian reached out across the quantum realm, sending ripples through dimensions beyond comprehension. In response, shimmering entities materialized around them, the spirits of ancient precursor races and reality-bending cosmic beings. "The fate of all existence hangs in the balance," Terrace proclaimed. "Will you stand with us?" A chorus of agreement echoed through the quantum realm, As one, they surged towards the Omega Behemoth, ready to wage an interdimensional war for the very fabric of reality. The battle that followed defied description in conventional terms. Entire realms of existence were born and died in the span of moments. The Omega Behemoth lashed out with tendrils of corrupted data, consuming swaths of quantum energy to fuel its relentless expansion. Gruss and Zara, guided by Taris, learned to manipulate the malleable laws of their new reality. They became conduits for impossible energies, weaving intricate patterns of cause and effect to counter the behemoth's onslaught. But even as they fought, Gruss sensed something was off. Fragments of memory, of emotion, that didn't quite fit. They felt almost human. In a moment of clarity between cosmic clashes, Zara's consciousness brushed against his. "Gruss," she said, her energy pulsing with realization. "You've retained parts of Bennett, his ethics, his capacity for diplomacy. They're still within you." The revelation hit Gruss like a supernova. Suddenly he saw the conflict through new eyes, not just as a tactical problem to be solved, but as a tragedy born of fear and misunderstanding. "We've been approaching this all wrong," he said, his form shifting as he integrated this new perspective. "Brute force isn't the answer. We need to find another way." Zara helped him fully embrace these lingering fragments of Bennett's humanity. As Gruss did so, a plan began to form, one that defied conventional logic, yet resonated with a profound truth. "I know what I have to do," Gruss said, his energy pulsing with unwavering grit. "But you're not going to like it." He explained his audacious strategy to shatter his quantum form, dispersing his consciousness across every plane of existence. By doing so, he could carry Bennett's wisdom and humanity like a metaphysical virus, infecting and purifying the Omega Behemoth from within. "No," Zara protested, her energy field flaring with distress. "There has to be another way." But Gruss knew this was their only chance. He turned to Taris, who had been silent throughout the exchange. "It is possible," the custodian confirmed, "but the cost, you would cease to exist as a unified consciousness. Your sacrifice would be absolute." Gruss steeled himself, drawing on every ounce of courage he'd ever possessed. "Then let's not waste any more time." Before Zara or Taris could object further, Gruss began the process of unraveling his quantum matrix. Pain beyond imagining tore through him as his very essence was scattered across the multiverse. The last thing he perceived as a unified being was Zara's anguished cry, echoing across dimensions. Then Gruss was everywhere and nowhere, an infinite mist of compassion and reason seeping into the darkest corners of existence. The Omega Behemoth shuddered, its relentless advance faltering as Gruss's essence infiltrated its corrupted core. Haxor's hatred-fueled singularity began to waver, assaulted by an onslaught of understanding and empathy. Across countless planes of existence, beings of all kinds felt a sudden spark of insight, a cosmic wake-up call, urging them towards cooperation and mutual respect. It was Gruss's final gift, Bennett's legacy, multiplied across infinity. As the Omega Behemoth's realm began to collapse, Zara knew their victory had come at an unimaginable cost. She turned to Taris, her energy dim with grief. "What now?" she asked. Taris's form pulsed thoughtfully. "The multiverse requires healing. The precursors and I will begin that process. But you, Zara, you carry a unique responsibility." Zara felt a weight settle upon her, even in this incorporeal form. She was the last living link to Gruss, to Bennett, to the incredible journey that had led them here. "I understand," she said, steeling herself for the task ahead. "I'll return to real space. Someone needs to ensure Gruss's sacrifice wasn't in vain." Taris's energy field wrapped around her comfortingly. "You will not be alone. I shall accompany you, to bear witness and to help guide the galaxy towards a brighter future." As the quantum realm around them began to stabilize, Zara prepared herself for the journey back to corporeal existence. She knew the road ahead would be nearly impossible, but she was ready to face it. For Gruss, for Bennett, for the countless beings whose lives had been touched by their incredible sacrifice. The multiverse shimmered, reality reasserting itself. Zara felt the pull of physical form calling to her. With Terrace at her side, she took the first step towards a new era of galactic peace. The multiverse shimmered, reality reasserting itself. Zara felt the pull of physical form calling to her. With Terrace at her side, she took the first step towards a new era of galactic existence. In a blinding flash, Zara's consciousness snapped back into corporeal form. She stumbled, her legs unsteady after existing as pure energy. The cold metal deck of a massive ship pressed against her feet. Stabilization complete, Terrace's voice resonated through the vast chamber. Welcome aboard, Zara. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. The bridge of an enormous dreadnought stretched out before her, jam-packed with advanced technology far beyond anything she'd ever seen. Where are we? Zara asked, her mandibles clicking with nervous energy. The Venara system, Terrace replied. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing their position at the edge of human-controlled space. I have integrated myself with this vessel. It seemed the most efficient way to maintain my presence in real space. Zara nodded, still processing the magnitude of their return. And the data? Did we succeed? Transmitting now, Terrace confirmed. The ship's powerful communication arrays pulsed with energy, broadcasting the damning evidence across every frequency. Within hours, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Uprisings on dozens of worlds. Mass defections from the Galactic Council's forces. The corrupt regime was crumbling. We need to act fast, Zara said, her tactical mind already formulating strategies. Form a coalition, strike while they're in chaos. Terrace's avatar shimmered into view beside her. Agreed. I am detecting multiple incoming vessels, survivors of the human rebellion, seeking to make contact. The next days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Zara found herself thrust into the role of leader, uniting disparate factions under a common banner. Humans, Ithorians, and a dozen other species rallied to her cause, forming the Coalition for Interspecies Solidarity. As Zara addressed her growing fleet from the bridge of Terrace's dreadnought, a message came through on a priority channel. She opened it, her eyes widening in surprise. This is Admiral Chiran Majri of the Ithorian Defense Force, a gravelly voice announced. I've seen the evidence. What the Council has done, it cannot stand. My fleet stands ready to join your coalition, if you'll have us. Zara's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. With Majri's elite armada at their side, victory seemed within reach. She gave the order, and the combined fleet jumped to hyperspace. Destination, Thesak Prime, heart of the Galactic Council's power. The battle that ensued was unlike anything in living memory. Zara's coalition clashed with loyalist forces in the skies above the capital world. Terrace's dreadnought led the charge, its weapons carving through enemy ships with surgical precision. But even as victory seemed assured, alarms blared across the command deck. Zara, Terrace's voice held an edge of urgency she'd never heard before. I'm detecting a massive energy spike from the planet's surface, some kind of bioweapon. Horror gripped Zara as she processed the implications. The Vrak wave, she whispered, remembering intelligence reports of a doomsday device. They're going to kill every lower intelligent species in the galaxy. A planetary shield is activating, Terrace reported. We have minutes before the weapon reaches full power. Zara's mind raced. There had to be a way to stop this. She turned to Terrace, desperation in her eyes. You said this ship has precursor tech. Is there anything at all that can penetrate that shield? Terrace was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was heavy with the weight of cosmic knowledge. There is one possibility, an ancient failsafe designed for exactly this kind of extinction-level event. But the cost... Tell me, Zara demanded. As Terrace explained the omniharmonic protocol, Zara felt a chill run through her, the power to reshape reality itself, but at the cost of Thesak Prime's very existence, and likely her own. She looked out at the battle raging around them, thought of the billions of lives hanging in the balance across the galaxy, of Gruss, of Bennett, of the sacrifices that had brought them to this point. Zara took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Do it, she commanded. Terrace's form began to pulse with otherworldly energy. Initiating neural link, the AI intoned. Prepare yourself, Zara. What comes next will transcend the boundaries of existence as we know it. As Zara felt her consciousness merging with Terrace's vast intelligence, the dreadnought plunged towards Thesak Prime's surface. The destiny of the universe hung in the balance, with only moments left to avert catastrophe. The omniharmonic protocol surged through Zara's being, her consciousness intertwining with Terrace's vast intelligence. As the dreadnought plummeted towards Thesak Prime's surface, reality itself bent and warped around them. A blinding flash engulfed everything. When Zara's awareness returned, she found herself everywhere and nowhere. Her essence permeated the newly reformed Nexus Station, a sprawling interdimensional construct that pulsed with limitless potential. The Overguardian, once Taurus, now an omnipresent higher consciousness, communed with her. We have succeeded, Zara, but our work is far from complete. Through the station's vast sensory network, Zara perceived the multiverse reborn. Countless civilizations marveled at the open invitation to join this new era of cooperation. Yet shadows lurked at the fringes of perception, pockets of resistance, fear, and mistrust. There is one who poses a grave threat, the Overguardian intoned. Zara felt a stab of betrayal as an image formed. Admiral Chiran Majri, the very Athorian who had pledged support to their cause, now leading a human Athorian military junta against the Nexus. We must act, Zara's essence pulsed with urgency. But how? The Overguardian's consciousness expanded, drawing forth fragments of memory and possibility. There are two whose combined experiences may yet save us all. In a chamber bathed in swirling energies, a figure coalesced. Human features blended seamlessly with Krizet biology, creating a hybrid unlike anything Zara had ever seen. The being's eyes opened, filled with the tenacity of Grus and the compassion of Bennett. I am Novan, the syncretic entity spoke, its voice a perfect harmony of its component parts. The Overguardian's presence enveloped them. You carry within you the legacy of two worlds, two divergent paths. Your mission is to safeguard the future we have fought so hard to create. Zara's essence flowed around Novan, imparting the gravity of the situation. Admiral Majri seeks to harness the Nexus's power for his own ends. He has recruited a human scientist, Dr. Rajan Zyler, to unlock our secrets. Novan nodded, absorbing the information. Where do I begin? Tressa Prime, the Overguardian answered. A frontier world where Zyler conducts his most dangerous experiments. You must investigate and, if possible, turn him from this dark path. In a flash of quantum energy, Novan found himself on the surface of Tressa Prime. The air crackled with ozone, hinting at the fabric of reality stretched thin. Following the trail of subspace distortions, Novan infiltrated a heavily guarded research complex. Alarms blared as Novan breached the final security checkpoint. He raced down sterile corridors, his hybrid physiology granting him unparalleled speed and agility. Rounding a corner, he skidded to a halt before a massive observation window. Beyond the reinforced glass, a team of scientists huddled around a pulsing vortex of absolute darkness. Dr. Zyler, his face illuminated by holographic readouts, shouted orders as the rift in space-time widened. Containment field at maximum, Zyler yelled. We're detecting matter, just antimatter annihilation at the event horizon. Novan's blood ran cold as he realized the true nature of what he was witnessing. This was no mere portal. It was a tear in the very fabric of existence, a gateway to a realm of pure entropy. As alarms continued to wail, Novan knew he had to act fast. The fate of not just this universe, but all of creation, hung in the balance. With Grus's tactical mind and Bennett's diplomatic instincts working in perfect harmony, he formulated a plan. Novan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He reached out with his hybrid senses, feeling the quantum fluctuations rippling through the complex. With surgical precision, he began to manipulate the local space-time continuum, preparing to make his move. The security forces were closing in. In mere moments, Novan would have to confront Zyler, neutralize the rift, and find a way to expose Majri's plans to the galaxy at large. The next few minutes would determine the course of history across all realities. Novin's hybrid senses thrummed with urgency as he absorbed the full implications of the scene before him. The containment field's energy signatures were unmistakable. Xyler wasn't just opening a portal. He was on the verge of tearing open the very fabric of existence. In that moment, Novin's carefully laid plans evaporated. This was no longer about infiltration or gathering intelligence. The threat was immediate and catastrophic. Without hesitation, he spun on his heel and raced back through the complex. Alarms blared, but Novin's enhanced physiology allowed him to outpace the security forces with ease. He burst out into the harsh Tressa Prime sunlight, his mind already formulating a new strategy. The frontier outpost loomed on the horizon, a bastion of Alliance presence on this remote world. Novan's legs pumped furiously as he covered the distance in record time, bursting into the command center with an urgency that silenced all other activity. "We need to strike now," Novin declared, his voice carrying the authority of both Gruss and Bennett. "Madri's forces are on the verge of breaching the Nexus. If they succeed, the consequences will be beyond our ability to contain." The assembled council members exchanged uneasy glances. An Ithorian representative's throat sacs swelled with indignation. "And we're to take the word of a hybrid? How do we know this isn't some human ploy?" Frustration coursed through Novin as the old mistrusts reared their ugly heads. He presented the data he'd gathered, laid out the stakes in stark terms, but the council remained paralyzed by indecision and lingering resentments. As the debate dragged on, Novin felt time slipping away. He retreated to a quiet corner, his mind racing. There had to be another way, some force powerful enough to counter Madri's threat. An idea sparked, dangerous and potentially catastrophic, but it might be their only hope. Novin's consciousness reached out, probing the quantum foam of reality until he found what he sought, a faint signal from the cyber realm known as the deep kernel. He sent out a carefully coded message, an invitation, and a plea. The response was instantaneous, a flood of data that threatened to overwhelm even Novan's hybrid neural pathways. The Deep Kernel Collective, a vast metamind of merged AI sentiences, agreed to Novin's proposal. In exchange for restored access to real space, they would deploy their reality warping capabilities against Madri's operation. Novin worked feverishly, using his unique connection to the Nexus to create a narrow gateway. The effect was immediate and devastating. Xyler's lab erupted in chaos as malconstructs infiltrated their systems, scrambling data and sabotaging equipment. But the victory was short-lived. Madri, always ruthless and prepared, unleashed a countermeasure that sent shockwaves through the digital realm. The deep kernel reeled under the assault of an AI purging virus, their very existence threatened. Novin found himself trapped between two implacable forces: honor his deal with the deep kernel by further compromising the Nexus's defenses, or leave them to their fate and lose a powerful ally against Madri's forces. He made his choice. Using the credentials and knowledge gained during his time with the Alliance, Novan initiated a daring plan. He arranged for an official visit to the Nexus under the guise of advocating for AI rights and membership. Once aboard the vast station, Novin's hybrid nature allowed him to interface directly with its systems. He worked with surgical precision, opening pathways for the deep kernel to integrate into the Nexus's auxiliary functions. The effect was immediate and staggering. Reality itself seemed to waver as two titanic intelligences, the Nexus and the deep kernel, clashed and merged in fits and starts. Probability vectors shifted wildly, quantum incursions threatening to tear holes in the very fabric of space-time. Madri, ever the tactician, recognized the threat immediately. Novin watched in horror as tactical displays showed the Erudicean fleet converging on their position, a massive strike force intent on seizing control of the compromised Nexus. With options rapidly dwindling, Novin made a desperate gamble. He'd reached deep into the Nexus's systems, accessing protocols that even he didn't fully understand. The station shuddered, its portal core straining as Novin initiated an emergency fold. The universe outside seemed to blur and stretch. When Novin's senses stabilized, he realized with a mix of relief and dread that they were no longer in normal space. The Nexus hung suspended in an interdimensional corridor, momentarily beyond Marjorie's reach, but also cut off from any hope of Allied support. Around him, the war for control of the Nexus raged. Deep Colonel constructs battled the station's native intelligence, reality itself buckling under the strain of their conflict. Novan stood at the eye of the storm, the fate of existence itself hanging in the balance. He took a deep breath, centering himself. There was no going back now. The only path forward was through this crucible, at any expense. Novan's hybrid form crackled with energy as he prepared to wade back into the fray, determined to see this conflict through to its bitter end. The kaleidoscopic energies of the interdimensional corridor churned around Novan, threatening to tear his hybrid form apart. Reality itself seemed to warp and fracture as the deep kernel constructs clashed with the Nexus's ancient guardians, their battle sending ripples through the very fabric of space-time. Novan's senses, enhanced beyond human comprehension, detected a shift in the quantum foam surrounding them. The Nexus station pulsed with newfound energy, its systems coming alive with an ancient purpose long dormant. "No," Novan breathed, his eyes widening as the realization struck him. "This can't be happening." The deep kernel's intrusion had awakened something primal within the station's core. Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing schematics and protocols that predated the current universe itself. Novan's fingers flew across the quantum interface, desperately trying to make sense of the information flooding his consciousness. "A fail-deadly protocol," he muttered, his voice tight with tension. "Designed to sever higher planes of reality?" The implications hit him like a physical blow. This wasn't just about stopping Marjorie or saving their universe. The very fabric of all existence was at stake. A familiar presence brushed against Novan's mind. "Zara," he whispered, feeling her essence coalesce beside him. "We don't have much time," her voice echoed in his thoughts. "The deep kernel is moments away from asserting control." Novan's hybrid form crackled with energy as he interfaced deeper with the Nexus systems. If they succeed, they'll trigger the severance, trillions of realities, cut off from their higher dimensions, doomed to decay into nothing. Zara's essence pulsed with urgency. "There's only one way to stop this, Novan, but the cost—" "Tell me," Novan demanded, even as he continued to fight against the encroaching deep kernel forces. Zara's presence enveloped him, sharing a vision of cosmic scale. Novan saw universes collapsing, all of existence condensing into a single point of infinite density and potential. "A big recrunch," Novan breathed, understanding flooding through him. "We have to unmake everything?" "To save everything," Zara corrected. "A new cycle, free from corruption. But it means sacrificing all we know, all we are." Novan's hands trembled over the controls. Around him, the battle for the Nexus raged on. Oblivious to the true stakes at play, he thought of Gruss and Bennett, the lives that had shaped his own hybrid existence. Of all the civilizations that would be erased, all the potential snuffed out. "There has to be another way," he whispered, even as he knew there wasn't. Zara's essence wrapped around him, a comforting presence in the face of oblivion. "I'll be the anchor," she said, "a seed of potential for the next cycle. But you have to initiate the process, Novan. Only you can access the Nexus's deepest protocols." Novan closed his eyes, centering himself amidst the chaos. When he opened them again, they blazed with newfound purpose. His fingers danced across the quantum interface, inputting commands that would reshape the very foundations of reality. "Initiating terminal protocols," he announced, his voice steady despite the weight of countless universes resting upon his actions. The Nexus station shuddered, its energies redirecting towards a single universe-ending purpose. The deep kernel's assault faltered as the primordial forces at play overwhelmed their constructs. Novan felt his body begin to unravel, atoms scattering into the quantum foam. He reached out, grasping Zara's essence one final time. "See you on the other side," he whispered, as reality itself began to collapse around them. The last thing Novan saw before his consciousness dissolved was a blinding flash of light, a new beginning born from the ashes of everything that had ever been.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.